Madam Chair, nearly 700,000 students will receive the Canada Student Loan this year, and the program administers about $24 billion worth of student loans. This year, the program is, in fact, projected to grow about 32%. To administer this massive program, the Liberal government signed an 8-year contract with a private software company called Finastra, which gets money for each loan user. Can the minister provide the total fee paid by her government to Finastra for operating the student loan program last year and the projected fee for this year?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I'm actually delighted that the member opposite is drawing attention to student loans, because support for students is one of our government's priorities. $5.7 billion is committed to Canadian students in this budget. That includes doubling the Canada Student Grant for 2 more years. It includes extending the moratorium on federal interest and ensuring that 450,000 low-income student borrowers will have access to more generous repayment assistance. I trust the member opposite supports that.
I am familiar with the time, so I will cut the minister off. The Honourable Member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Madam Chair, the minister unfortunately did not answer my question of how much the private company that administers the student loan was paid. And again, this is $24 billion of student loans that they manage. But we do know that in 2017 and 2018, Finastra was paid over $77 million to run the student loan program. In fact, the taxpayer paid the company over $410 million over a 5-year period to administer the program. We also know that Finastra most recently had nearly $2 billion in revenues, and its customers include 90 of the top 100 banks globally. So in sum, Finastra is very successful and is making a lot of money. But my question is, why did Finastra receive the wage subsidy from the Canadian taxpayer, and how much did they receive?
The Honourable Minister.
Again, Madam Speaker, I struggle to understand the sincere intent behind the member's question. Is she implying that somehow we should not be making student loans available to young Canadians? If that is her implication, I could not more strongly disagree. Student loans are essential to our young people. They are an essential investment in our future. And I am so proud that this budget strengthens the student loan program, and that thanks to this budget, young Canadians earning less than $40,000 do not have to start repaying their student loans.
Our member for Kildonan St. Paul's.
Madam Chair, I'm not sure why the minister would be proud of providing a billionaire company with the wage subsidy when they're making a lot of money. That's my question. But ultimately, I would like to know as well, Madam Chair, the CEO, Robert Smith of Vista Equity Partners, which owns Finastra, it's the parent company, recently paid $139 million in tax fines to the American government, which is amongst the largest tax fraud scandals in American history. So that is, the Canadian taxpayer has subsidized one of his companies. Was the minister aware of this?
Minister.
Again, Madam Speaker, I would like to probe a little bit the intent behind the member's questions. She's been asking about the wage subsidy, and I'd like to say to her that that is a program which has supported 5.3 million Canadian jobs. In her native province of Manitoba, it has supported 175,000 jobs alone. And let me just say, Madam Speaker, our priority is Canadian students, Canadian workers, and we are going to do whatever it takes to support them.
Our member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Madam Chair, the minister keeps quoting that stat, but quite honestly, it sounds like some of these companies could have saved these jobs on their own and had billions of dollars to spare. But honestly, Madam Chair, the finance minister actually wrote a book about guys like Mr. Smith, where she argued the super rich became rich because they were at the right place at the right time. And maybe she's right. I mean, a billionaire American tax cheat got richer off students and Canadian taxpayers during the pandemic as a result of this Liberal government's poorly designed wage subsidy program in this regard. And now Canadians with federal student loans will know that every time they make a payment, an American tax cheat will get richer. And I guess that's okay by the Minister of Finance's standards. I'm not sure, but it sounds like it is. And ultimately, we know Finastra is worth billions, and yet they receive the wage subsidy. And we know that 32 companies that went bankrupt before the pandemic was declared took millions from the wage subsidy, some of whom no longer had any employees at all. And some of the best performing Canadian hedge funds also received the wage subsidy despite making hundreds of millions of dollars of profits last year. So will the finance minister commit to ensuring no more profitable billionaire companies receive the taxpayer-funded wage subsidy?
The Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, what I will commit to is a measure which is in Bill C-30, which is important, and I hope that the member opposite will support. And this measure means that this applies for publicly listed corporations that receive the wage subsidy for any qualifying period after June 5th. And these corporations would be required to pay the amount by which the remuneration of their top executives in 2021 exceeds their remuneration in 2019, up to the amount of wage subsidy received for active employees for this period. I do think that's an important measure, and I look forward to support from the other side of the House for that measure.
The Honourable Member for Kildona St. Paul.
Madam Chair, Conservatives and Canadians supported pandemic relief efforts and programs because they were sold to us as supports for Canadian families and Canadian businesses that were deeply hurt at the risk of closing due to the government shutdowns. They were not designed, or at least from our perspective, what we were told, for profitable billionaire companies. And at the same time, the federal deficit is the largest in Canadian history, over $354 billion. And now we are slowly beginning to learn and uncover the mountains of financial mismanagement by this Liberal government. And Canadians really will be the ones on the hook to pay for it, whether through high taxes or reduced public services or both. And try as they may to explain away the sort of Liberal government's disrespect or disregard, or I'm not sure quite what it is, for Canadian taxpayers and fiscal responsibility generally. Canadians are growing tired of this Liberal government's mismanagement and uncertainty. And I'll conclude, Madam Chair, by saying Conservatives successfully led us through the last economic recession, and we can do it again. And it is time for a responsible Conservative government that will secure Canada's future.
The Honourable Minister, a brief answer. There's 30 seconds left, but we'll allow.
Answer to a collection of flaccid talking points. Bit tough, Madam Speaker, but let me simply point out that it took a full decade before labour force participation in Canada recovered to its previous levels after the 2008-2009 recession. We're not going to repeat that mistake. We're going to support Canadians, we're going to support Canadian workers, and Canada, Madam Speaker, is going to come roaring back.